Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1978 Cleveland Indians MLB season. Again, the Indians were playing at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and they'd been there for 46 years at that time. So it was an old ballpark, and they had 15 years more to play, although we didn't know the future. And it was a huge park, had like 80,000 seats, and if you had a big crowd, it was amazing. The roar of the crowd. Of course, most of the time, those seats were empty. But the Indians were, 78 Tribe was another tough year. They were 69-90, 21 games under 500, finished dead last in the American League East, 29 games out of first. Gosh, really tough. A very tough year. One of the coaches on the team was Rocky Colavito. And a book came out in 1994 by Terry PLUTO called The Curse of Rocky Colavito. The little history of the Indians, they won their last World Series in 1948. It's been 70 years. And in 54, they made it to the World Series. Throughout the 50s, the Indians were strong. They generally finished in second place, challenging the Yankees. There were no divisions. So the Yankees would win the division, the Indians would be in second. And so we were a strong contender. The thing is, in the late 50s, the fans got fed up with the attendance started to decline because every year we would finish second. In the late 50s, Rocky Colavito was this tremendous slugger for the Indians. He actually hit 4 home runs in a game in 1959. He was traded in 1960, right before opening day, to the Tigers. And he had, 5 tremendous years for the Tigers. And then PLUTO, in this book, The Curse of Rocky Colavito, makes the case that the Indians, there was a fundamental change in the team when that trade was made. Because ever since then, he calls it a loving look at a 30-year slump. Up until 1960, the Indians were strong contenders, good team. And then after that, they did not really contend until 1995 when they got to the World Series. Another coach on the team was Dave Duncan. It was nice having him back. His career had come to an end, so those fans who were so upset when he was traded in 75, at least he was back on the team. Harvey Haddix was the another coach, the guy who pitched 12 perfect innings and lost a game. Another coach was Joe Moeller. Don't remember him very well. Joe Nosick was another coach, and the manager was Jeff Torborg. There was a new owner of the Indians in 1978, F.J. Steve O'Neill, who purchased the Tribe for $11 million from Nick Milletti. Not much money. You can see how much they're worth today. Gabe Paul came back to Cleveland. He had gone to the Yankees and with George Steinbrenner. And Steinbrenner was from Cleveland, the owner of the Yankees, and then of course, nobody could work with Steinbrenner for very long. Gabe Paul came back. Phil Segui was the general manager again. In the field, the regular lineup, the starting lineup, we had Johnny Grubb in left field. He hit .265, 14 home runs, 61 RBIs. Pretty good player, Johnny Grubb. Yeah, he had pretty good numbers. Rick Manning had a rebound year in center field. He hit .263, 3 home runs, 50 RBIs, 12 stolen bases, and he played in 148 games. So, the year before he'd been hurt. So Manning had a better year, and tremendous center fielder. He could really cover ground. In right field, Paul Dade played. He hit .254, 3 home runs, 20 RBIs, 12 stolen bases. His number was 0-0. And I was at a game with some friends of mine, and one of my friends, John Carosha, he looked at the scorecard and he saw this 0-0 Paul Dade, and he thought, "Oh, look at this guy! Ooh, Paul Dade!" He thought it was like part of his name. We said, "John, that's his number, 0-0." Buddy Bell was back at third base again. Had a real good year. .282, 6 home runs, 62 RBIs, played in 142 games. At shortstop, Frank Duffy was gone. The Tribe finally got fed up with his low averages, and we traded for Tom Verizor. Picked him up from the Tigers in the Charlie Spikes deal. Charlie Spikes was gone. My hero. Verizor hit .271, 1 home run, 32 RBIs. So that was good. We got some more offense out of the shortstop position. Dwayne Kuiper was at second, hit 283 with 0 home runs, 43 RBIs in 149 games. The year before, Kuiper had hit the only home run of his career, and sometime later he had this to say, quote, "1 home run is better than none, but any more than one and people start expecting them." So he's a funny guy. He made history on July 27, 1978. He had 2 bases loaded triples in 1 game, and I think that had only happened 5 times in baseball history. He got the Good Guy Award for the team in 1978. They'd give this award, for a guy who was a good guy. And to back up a little bit, Rick Manning, they called him Archie because of Archie Manning, was the NFL quarterback in the 70s for the Saints, father of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. Andre Thornton was our big slugger at first base. He had a tremendous year. He hit 262, 33 home runs, and 105 RBIs. It had been a long time since we had a guy with 100 RBIs. And the thing is, Thornton was really, that whole year, he was grieving because after the previous year, he was driving home, I believe in Pennsylvania, and it was a real bad weather. I think it was raining or snowing, icy rain. And October 17th, he was in this horrible car accident in which his wife and daughter, very young daughter, died. And devastating. At least he had the off season to grieve, at least to have the intense grief. Later he came out with a book in 1983 called Triumph Born of Tragedy by Andre Thornton and Al Jansen. And this was, he described what he went through and how this helped him to become a very strong Christian. Since Charlie Spikes was gone, Andre Thornton became my new favorite player. And of course, he really had a tremendous career for Cleveland. One game, I brought a banner down to the stadium. I wrote, his nickname was Thunder, and I wrote this banner that, actually I just took newspapers and painted capital letters on them. The letters for the word Thunder. Anyway, I went to the upper deck out in left field, and I taped them up. And then I went back to my seat over on the other side of the stadium. I could see that. It was very exciting. I think, wow, I could see that banner. And he hit 2 home runs that night, so that was very exciting. Andre Thornton, tremendous player. Our catcher was Gary Alexander, who hit 235, 17 home runs, 62 RBIs. Yeah, Alexander, he was a pretty good hitter, had some power, although his fielding wasn't the greatest. The designated hitter was Bernie Carbo, who hit 287, 4 home runs, 16 RBIs. Carbo had played for the 75 Red Sox, who made it to the World Series. He was a character. He famously had a stuffed gorilla that he kept in the locker room next to his seat, and so that was kind of funny. Some of the bench players included Larvell Blanks, who hit 254 in 70 games. Blanks would come in, play second and short. Pretty good hitter. His fielding wasn't that great. Dan Briggs, we played in 15 games, hit 163. Briggs had some power playing, I believe, for Milwaukee, and this was near the end of his career. Wayne Cage hit 245 in 36 games. Ted Cox, we got in the Dennis Eckersley trade. The Indians traded Dennis Eckersley to the Red Sox in a blockbuster deal. Rick Manning and Dennis Eckersley had a conflict, and the Indians felt they needed to trade one of those guys. So, and they traded Eckersley, who, hindsight is 20/20, and it would have been better off. They would have been better off trading Rick Manning. But anyway, that's what they did. We picked up Ted Cox, who was a hot prospect as a third baseman, and he played on opening day. People thought maybe he'd be the third baseman of the future, and even though, Bell had actually a big future still. Remember opening day, I went that year, and he hit a line drive to the third baseman, and people were like, whoa, wow, you really hit the ball. Cox's career never really took off. Another guy we got in the Eckersley deal was Bo Diaz, a catcher. He had a pretty good career, hit 236 in 44 games. Again, ALFREDO Griffin spent most of the year in the minor leagues. He hit 500 in 5 games. He had a fine career shortstop coming up. Ron Hassey was a young guy in the early part of his career. He had 203 in 25 games. He eventually became the Indians' regular catcher. And we picked up Willie Horton from the Rangers and the Tom Buskey, John Lowenstein deal. Horton had a tremendous career for Detroit, a real power hitter, and this was at the end of his career. He hit 249 in 50 games, had 5 home runs. Jim Norris, Norris must have played in different positions. He played in 113 games, hit 283, 2 home runs, 12 stolen bases. I really like Jim Norris. Ron Pruitt was another catcher. He could come in, he could catcher DH, hit 235 in 71 games. Horace Speed was a free agent we picked up. He had 226 in 70 games. Mike Vail hit 235 in 14 games. Remember, he had some good games. Then in our pitching staff, Rick Waits was 13 and 15 with 3.2 ERA with 15 complete games. Mike Paxton, we picked up in the Dennis Eckersley deal from the Red Sox, was 12 and 11 with a 3.86 ERA. He gave us a good year. Another guy we got from the Red Sox for Dennis Eckersley, Rick Wise, went 9 and 19. Led the American League in losses, 4.34 ERA, 9 complete games. David Clyde was another starter. He went 8 and 11 with a 4.28 ERA. We got him in the Tom Buskey, John Lowenstein deal from the Rangers. Actually, Clyde had made national news. He had graduated from high school, and he was this hot prospect, and he went directly to the major leagues right out of high school and pitched and won a game. But although I think he still needed some minor league seasoning. Actually, we had the same thing with Steve Dunning. The Indians had done that. Steve Dunning, right out of high school, pitched for Cleveland. Al Fitzmaurice was 0-1 with a 6.28 ERA in 7 games. They were hoping that he could make a comeback, but he couldn't do very much. Dave Freisleben was 1-4 with a 7.11 ERA in 10 starts. That kind of shows how bad the Cleveland was. They kept putting this guy out with of course, pitchers, they can have a really bad game that inflates their ERA, especially when they don't play a lot. Wayne Garland, the guy, the $2.1 million man, he only played in a few games, and he was 2-3 with a 7.89 ERA. Yeah, he was hurt. Couldn't really play. Most of the year he couldn't play because of this injury, which really ruined his career because he pitched hurt. Don Hood was 5-6, 19 starts, 4.48 ERA. Yeah, Don Hood, they kept hoping that he would develop. You can't tell with these pitchers, and he never really did. Jim Kern, out of the bullpen, went 10-10. Very strange. I find that remarkable that he got so many wins and losses as a bullpen pitcher. But he must have been in games when the lead changed. He had 13 saves. He was a really fine relief pitcher. He was a character. They used to call him Emu, that was his nickname. And Emu is an ostrich-like bird. And apparently Kern looked like an emu. Dennis Kinney was 0-2 with a 4.42 ERA in 18 games. Sid Manji, 4-3, 2.76 ERA, 6 saves. He was from Agua Prieto, Mexico. We got him in the Dave LaRoche deal. He gave us some good years, Sid Manji. A good, fine relief pitcher. So he and Kern were the guys trying to close out games for the Tribe. Paul Russell was 2-4 with a 3.11 ERA in 6 starts. His brother Rick Russell was a tremendous pitcher, I believe, for the Cubs. And so you had these two brothers playing. Although Paul was the lesser of the two, Rick Russell was a lot better. Dan Spillner was at the beginning of his career with Cleveland. He went 3-1 in 36 games, and later Spillner went on to have a pretty good career for Cleveland. Good starting pitcher. So that's the the 1978 Cleveland Indians. You know, they had a tough year, and God bless all the guys who played for them, and the staff, and the fans who supported the Cleveland Indians in 1978. Good luck to the 2018 Tribe. It's been 70 years since 1948. This is our year. Tribe rules. Cleveland, the city of champions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.